Yeah.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Our Turf Football podcast. We got all four of us here today, and I am sorry in advance, okay? Because today we're all a little wound up. Kate has her giant glass of wine, which absolutely she has every reason to celebrate. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We've got Sonia here with us too, who gets to keep Jim Harbaugh, which broke my heart just a little bit because it really was.
Oh, I do get to keep Jim Harbaugh?
Supposedly, that's the rumor. You get to keep him.
Okay, we'll talk later.
All right, that'll be good. And then we also have with us Lisa Johnson, who wrote a great article today about Tua. And Lisa, I agreed with you completely and about everything that you said. So we're going to talk about all of these things. But first, Lisa, tell us about our sponsor.
Well, first, we always have to eat before we do this podcast. And we always recommend Donkeys and Donkeys 2 in Camden and Medford, New Jersey. You want a Philly steak? Go check out Joe and the gang at Donkeys 2. They'll hook you up.
For real.
Yes, and we are so grateful to them for sponsoring our podcast for the rest of the season and into the off season. And we want everyone to go check them out. Donkeys and Donkeys 2. They're a great bunch of fun. Okay, guys, we are going to start. First, we're going to do a quick recap of our divisions. Now, each one of us covers 4 divisions. No, Lisa really does cover whole divisions. You just wouldn't always know it. But we each cover 2 divisions. So we're going to let everybody give us a roundup of their division because we just finished the regular season. But we're going to start with Kate because Kate's damn excited down there. And you have every reason to be, Kate. Tell us about your divisions.
All right. So the first division that I cover is the NFC South. The New Orleans Saints won their division at 12-4. Tampa Bay following right behind with Tom Brady at 11-5. Both of those teams will be enjoying some time in the postseason. Behind them, we had the lowly Carolina Panthers at 5-11 and the Atlanta Falcons. Lord only knows what happened to the Falcons at 4-12 and how they're going to fix the mess that they've got going on down there. In the AFC, I cover the AFC North. The first place Pittsburgh Steelers, 12-4, will be playing in the playoffs along with the Baltimore Ravens at 11-5 and hence my playoff Prosecco this week. Since I did the 10-win martini a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to keep it a theme. My Cleveland Browns were 11-5 as well. Theoretically, we are third in the standings because Baltimore owns the tiebreaker because of their wins over us this season. With the Bengals down at 4-11. Hopefully they'll get Joe Burrow back from injury and maybe they'll do a little something in the division next year. But we are super excited up here in Ohio. The Browns have not been in the playoffs since 2002. And frankly, even then didn't have a shot at winning. And we've got a real good shot on Sunday night at 8 p.m. When we face the Steelers for the 3rd time this season. It'll be fun. We're super excited.
It will be
Third
fun.
time's a charm.
That's true.
We're like that underdog team everybody's rooting for, like people who have like a second favorite team are rooting for us. I wish OBJ was healthy because I think he not only would we benefit from having him play, but I feel bad that he can't play with this, because of the injury and whatnot. And the COVID situation is still not, this facility had to shut down again this week. And I'm not sure what's going on. It waited to hit the Browns until the very end of the season, but it is what it is. Everyone's dealing with it. We'll deal with it.
Absolutely. All right. Sonia, let's go to you. What happened in your divisions this year?
Okay. Okay, hang on. My internet's a little wonky right now, it looks like. Oof. Hang on. My internet.
That's what happened to her division.
Yeah. Hang on. She needs a new head coach.
That's the NFC East right there. So I cover the NFC East, and we all know about their struggles and troubles this year. Somehow the Washington football team was able to pull it out with, a 7-9 record. But, this has happened before. Dana, remember when the Seahawks went 7-9 and they won? So it's not unheard of. But this really was a down year for the division that had a lot of hope and a lot of buildup. And, you look at Dallas and Dak's injury and stuff like that, and how much it could have been different. It could have been a lot different. But also, like I've said in several of my articles, you gotta kind of give them a little bit of a pass this year. Just because 3 of the 4 teams had new head coaches and getting things together and learning, different systems and stuff like that. So there's the NFC East. And then I also cover the NFC North, and that has the number 1 seed, Green Bay Packers. Yay them. Lucy, see, look, I said something nice about the Packers. Be happy. And then the Chicago Bears, who to this day I still don't know how they were able to get into the playoffs, but hey, the up and coming Minnesota Vikings. I think they are up and coming. You got Justin Jefferson, who broke that record yesterday for the rookie receiver, and there's some good things going on that team. And then you have the Detroit Lions that will probably be a totally different reincarnation next year. So there's that.
Sonia, as a Lions fan, is that exciting for you? Like, if you've just had crap years, year after year for a while now, I mean, Matt Patricia was not a success there. Is that exciting to think that you might get something different next year?
No. I mean, honestly, and I feel bad saying it, but how many times have we had different? And how many times have we, had the exact same thing? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not really exciting, but it's just kind of, let's wait and see.
Yeah.
Let's just wait and see.
That's fair.
You keep your expectations low, that way you can't get disappointed.
Then you're nice and surprised, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Lisa, how about you? How'd your divisions fare this year?
Well, I covered the AFC South. I'll go ahead and pull them up since they got 2 playoff teams coming out of there with the Titans and the Colts. Surprisingly, I was really kind of unsure how Phillip Rivers was going to set in, but it seemed like it was a good fit. Exactly what the Colts needed. I mean, they split with the Titans at 11-5. Both teams made the playoffs. So, what can you say? Titans with Tannehill and Derrick Henry. I mean, what a beast.
1,000-yard rusher.
Yes, 1,000-yard rusher. And, the thing with the Titans is defense. Defensively wise, you have to be a little concerned, especially for all you defenses win championship purse people. Because they sure gave up a ton of points. I mean, they scored a lot of points, but they gave up a ton too. So, it's going to be something to watch. But if you can't stop Derrick Henry, you're in for a long day. Right. The Colts, Phillip Rivers and his attitude, Dana's favorite quarterback in the league.
So whiny.
So kind of have to kind of like it for him. I mean, this is a good run for him. AFC East wise, what can I say? Dolphin fans came up just a little bit short. Still impressive record, 10-6, coming off last year with rookie Tua Tagovailoa. The Bills, red hot. To me, they're the team to beat in the AFC. They're rolling. That not only did they beat the Dolphins, they made an exclamation point of beating them. And I think they sent a message to, as of right now, it'd be the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously. So I honestly think that they're red hot right now, and I kind of see them advancing pretty far.
Mm-hmm. I do too. It's interesting. And we're going to talk about the Patriots a little bit later when we talk about quarterbacks, but I think that the shift in that division was pretty impressive to see after so many years of dominance from the Patriots. So that one was really good. And I will tell you this, all of us are members of the Pro Football Writers Association, so we all get to vote on their yearly awards. And Lisa, I told you I was going to, and I did it. Brian Flores is my coach of the year, and I am just so impressed with what he has done in 2 years with that roster, and I think that they're just going up, up, and up for sure. So I cover the AFC and the NFC West. And let me start with the AFC West. So the Kansas City Chiefs ran away with that division. They ended in 14-2, and that second loss was just because they sat every starter that they had. But the Chargers made the most of it and managed to really beat them pretty soundly yesterday. Then we have the Raiders at 8-8, so that's the next closest. Obviously, there's been some troubles that have come down just today for the Raiders, so that's interesting to see what's going to happen there. Then you have the Chargers at 7-9, who fired their coach. Anthony Lynn is now have been let go. I find that interesting after 7-9 with a rookie quarterback. I that was a huge mistake in my opinion. And then the Broncos at 5-11, who are absolutely ravaged by injury this year. And I don't think we ever even actually saw what that team could have, would have, should have been. They were just done from the beginning. The interesting thing about Kansas City, Lisa, and it kind of piggybacks on what you said about the Bills. The Bills are the team to beat right now. I did a little bit of research today, and the Kansas City Chiefs, who everyone thinks is God's gift to the planet, and they are an amazing team, and I love Patrick Mahomes, and I love everything he stands for. He's a fantastic guy. They haven't won a game by more than 6 points since the 8th of November. So they have been struggling as of late. Now, that might not always fit the eye test, because the eye test shows Patrick Mahomes having these fantastic, huge plays where they get these huge chunks of yards, but the play-to-play has been a little bit down. And they've let teams sit around and hold on into that fourth quarter. Now, they've managed to win almost all of those games, obviously with only the two losses, but it has been by 3, 4, 6 points. It's not been by a ton. They squeak it out in the end. You cannot do that with the Buffalo Bills. And if they do not figure out how to get that fixed before they have to face the Buffalo Bills, the Bills have a good chance of beating them, in my opinion. The Seattle Seahawks won the NFC West division at 12-4, 12 wins. It was meant to be. And then we have, and they are the third seed in the playoffs. The LA Rams came in second at 10-6. The Cardinals out of Arizona, I think a lot of people expected a little more out of them this year. I think people were surprised, although Kyler Murray still looked like a really good quarterback. There just seemed to be some question marks, even with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see what happens there next year. There was a rumor floated out today that Larry Fitzgerald might retire, but I think we hear that every year, don't we, at this point? So, and then we have the San Francisco 49ers, who are 6-10. I still think if the 49ers had not been so injured, they would have been up there fighting for the top of the division. So it'll be interesting to see what they do next year. All right, so that is a wrap-up of all of our divisions. We're going to talk about the playoffs. And there's a lot to talk about and a lot to not talk about. Obviously, this is the first year of the expanded playoff. So we only have one team from each conference that is getting a bye week, the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Everyone else has to play wild card weekend. It's weird to me. It's like the strangest thing that these 12, 14, win teams, 13 win teams are having to play a wild card game. Like, it's just strange, right? So I want to ask you guys, and you know what? Well, let's start with Sonia this time. What is your most interesting game, you think, of wild card weekend? Because there's some that look like they should be blowouts, but you never know in the playoffs. I always say you start even again at the playoffs. But to you, what is the most interesting game that you see?
Let's see. I think probably the most interesting one. I don't know. I think they're all going to be good. The one that I really just want to see is I kind of want to see, even though I know that the Bears are going to get blown out, I just kind of want to see that one. Just because, I don't know. I just want to see if they're still gonna kind of luck into some of the win, luck into a win. Mm-hmm. Drew Brees has been good, but he hasn't been excellent. He hasn't been stellar. So, they could luck into a win. They really could. So that might be just one to keep an eye on.
For sure. I think that one will be interesting too, because Mitch Trubisky, where'd he come from?
Right?
Benching him was the best thing they ever could have done for his career, because he's come back and been a monster ever since. So
he has been.
That is fascinating to me.
But do you sign him? That's the question.
Oh, hell, honey. That's
kind of made it tough on them, because the beginning of the season was an easy decision. We're going to move on from it. And now the way he's playing.
And you know what? Good for him. Good for him for making that, a little tough on them. Because that's what they, yeah. Anyways, that's
going to be a hard decision to make, for sure. Kate, what about you? What's the most interesting, other than your Browns? How about that?
Let her be a homer.
All right, be a homer.
Be a homer.
I hate that teams can meet in the playoffs from the same division. It just
tell me about it.
It bothers me. Yeah,
especially the first round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think I'm actually really interested to see what happens in the Tennessee Titans-Baltimore Ravens game, because there's going to be an awful lot of rushing yards in that game, whether it's Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson. Going to be a lot of ground yards gained, and I think it's all ultimately going to come down to if Lamar can successfully pass the ball. And they've been on a 5-game winning streak because they got knocked around quite a bit as midseason approached, and they needed to really take a look at what they want. And I don't know how that Harbaugh was able to motivate them and get them where they are right now, but they're on a roll. And so I expect them to continue on a roll. But I just think that it's going to be, for the kind of football that I like, that's going to be the game that I'm excited to watch.
And what's interesting is it's a repeat of last year's wild card game, right? So
Yep.
this is last year was when we had, you know, the red hot Ravens, Lamar Jackson's MVP season, and the Tennessee Titans went in there and said, sorry, 28-12, you're not going to advance. And so they just absolutely killed them. And so, which no one expected out of the Titans. And then the Titans ended up going clear. They went to the AFC Championship game last year, if I remember correctly. So I find that fascinating that that they're meeting again. But I think it's a little different this time. The Ravens are the underdog, and I think we're going to see a lot. And they're a chip on their shoulder from getting, you know, Lamar Jackson's not won a playoff game yet. He's going to want to win this game for sure. Lisa, what about you?
I'm going with the Buccaneers and the Washington.
Really? And why is that?
Because I think there's the smack talk that was going on between Chase Young and them today. I mean, Chase Young, he's a man on a mission. He's a man on a Tom Brady mission. And let me tell you something about Chase Young. The writing was on the wall with that guy, was it not? I mean, he is a stud. He can disrupt. And what happens with Tom Brady when he gets disrupted? You know, are we going to see playoff Tom, or are we going to see pissed off on the ground Tom? So it's going to be interesting. But, you know, Tom Brady's Tom Brady. Even in the playoffs with a different team, I expect him to be Tom Brady. So it's just going to be interesting.
Yeah, but his offensive line in Tampa is not good. And if they don't give him enough time, Chase Young covered sacks are going to be the name of the day.
And he'll get flustered quickly. And so, I mean, the Redskins actually, if they can disrupt him, they have a legitimate shot to shock the world and move on. And so, I mean, that's a game I'm kind of interested in to see. You know, like I said, we're going to see playoff Tom where it's just a laughable and 4 touchdowns and, you know, Mike Evans and Antonio Brown go off, maybe. But if Chase Young has anything to say about it, which he said he will, you know, he's going to be throwing on the run. So,
well, the interesting thing I find about Washington is what Sonia said earlier. You know, those 7-9 teams can be dangerous. The Seahawks did beat the Saints when they were the 7-9 playoff team, and the Saints were the defending Super Bowl champions. And that's when you had Marshawn Lynch's Beastquake run. And then there was one earlier. I can't remember. It was the Giants. For some reason, I think it was the Giants was the other 7-9 team. I can't remember who else it was, who also won their wild card game. So this is not unheard of. Right. They have nothing to lose. They're not
in by a coach that let them, you know, go and tank the game. So like
and the other thing about Washington is their defense is fantastic. And it has been fantastic. You know, the Seattle Seahawks, I just know this because I cover the team and they're my favorite team, but they completely changed the game plan. Russell Wilson's game plan completely changed. He did not throw that ball down the field. He dumped it off fast because they come so quickly at you. And as Lisa said, you want to make Tom Brady miss, you put him on his ass a couple of times and then he gets frustrated.
You just better make sure you know where Chase Young is at all times.
Yeah. But I really want Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers to meet again in the playoffs. So I don't know more on that one. We'll see. You know, I agree. I think that all of those games are really going to be interesting. Obviously, the Seattle Rams game is the other divisional game going on in the playoffs, which I agree with Kate. It's just annoying. This is the third time you've played this team back to back for the Browns and the Steelers. You know, at least the Seahawks have a whole week in between their games, you know, and so it's just a little strange, but it also makes for good football because those two teams know each other so well and the coaches know each other so well. I'm excited for this. There's 3 games Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, and we should be entertained literally all day long. It's going to be a great time for sure. It's going to be great. All right. So I was talking a little bit earlier. We talked about quarterbacks, and I'm only bringing this up, and I didn't warn you guys I was going to bring this up, so I'm so sorry about that.
Is fine. Bring it up anytime.
Oh, Lord.
It's a quarterback. We still talk about it.
So here's the interesting thing. You know, we have a lot of questions with quarterbacks. And one thing we were talking about before we started recording was Dak Prescott, you know, because he was injured. I think that he kind of got pushed to the back of a lot of people's minds. There's a lot of questions about Sam Darnold and whether or not he will stay in New York or if they will trade him. There seems to be a huge question mark about Carson Wentz, and we're going to talk about that in just a couple minutes because we had a listener question about that. But what I'm finding here is, I want to circle back to, is Dak Prescott. We talked about him for just a minute. I put out there on Twitter, it's today or yesterday, I can't remember, where I said, I think that Dak is probably going to end up in San Francisco. I could see that happening. We know Jimmy G is probably done there. And to me, that seemed like a really interesting fit. And I got shut down right away because everyone told me he's going to be tagged again, which, Jerry Jones, I think that's a really bad idea. He's going to be tagged again, or he's going to end up in New England. Lisa, you said you think he might end up in New England.
Yeah, dude. New England's got a lot of room. If you got kind of for those cat people that follow along, and trust me, I'm not one of them. So I kind of can briefly tell you who has a lot of money, and I can hear the talk already from the Patriot fans that they have a good cap space to bring in a veteran quarterback. Now, will Bill Belichick do that after this season with Cam Newton? I would think he would look at a younger quarterback to bring in and go. Two names I would look at Dak Prescott, and I would also look at Carson Wentz because they have the money to absorb some of that. I know, but Bill, so they need somebody under center. So, I can't see, I see another veteran coming in there somehow or another.
Do you think they'll draft a rookie too, just so that they can start
It'd be hard to, to me, because there's only like 3 quarterbacks I can name right now that are first round worthy. Mm-hmm. So to me, they'd have to move up because I can't see anybody passing on Trevor Lawrence. I can't see anybody passing on Justin Fields. And if they do, they're dumb. So, and then the other kids. So, they'd have to move up. So I don't think they are in a position to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So this leads us into one of our listener questions. So I put this out there earlier today. It's like, listeners, do you have any questions? We got a handful of some really great questions, and I want to thank all those people for talking with us. So this is
just hit on 2 of them.
I know. Roy Huang, I'm assuming is how you say his name. I apologize, Roy. But thank you so much for sending us in your question. He wants to know what the best landing spot for Carson Wentz is going to be. And Sonia, you've decided to take this one.
He asked if Chicago would be a good spot. And the only thing is just his contract. His contract is Mondo. And Chicago Bears don't have the room right now for that. Because I just looked at the cap what was that website? Under the Cap?
Over the Cap.
Over the Cap, yeah.
My favorite. I love that one.
It's very handy and helpful. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, the Bears are in the red so far, and I don't think that they can absorb that amount of money that he's going to demand. The Patriots would be a good landing spot for him. They've got the cap space. I think that they've got at least a serviceable team that would be able to make Carson the Carson that we knew before. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't know what happened in Philadelphia. I guess just the relationship between him and Peterson just didn't go the way that he thought it was. But I could see him starting again with Belichick. I could. Mm-hmm. I think it would be an interesting relationship, but I could see him, starting over again with Belichick. So I could see Carson Wentz there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good spot for him.
Denver needs a quarterback.
What?
Denver needs a quarterback.
That's a good spot too. That's a very good spot. And I think that he would provide kind of that extra.
But just remember who was Carson Wentz
that they need
coordinator when he first started out. That was Frank Reich.
Yeah, the Colts. And I think that we've seen that a lot, is that, he could end up with the Colts. I don't know what their cap space looks like, but
they're very good. Very good.
A hit in a year where your cap is going down $20 million. I hate to say it. Would surprise me to see Carson Wentz just sitting riding a bench with the Eagles or just not playing at all because he said he's not. He said he's not. He said he's going to, he's already talked about requested to trade. They're pretty much per rumors, per source, but even the players are saying that's fractured. So I did see that too.
So when you look at like the Broncos or the Colts, to me are 1 and 2. I think the Colts dependent. If Rivers, to me it depends on this playoff game. If Rivers is going to want to come back or not after that.
Well, he says he's going to go coach high school football. That's what he says he's going to do. Please go coach.
Exactly. So Carson Wentz, Frank Reich, They're all familiar with each other. So the Colts right now makes sense. But I don't know about the Broncos. I think it's still, I don't know. John Elway giving up his GM position, does that tell
Probably
you
the best thing ever.
that Locke's done there? Does that say that he's, oops, I made a mistake, now let somebody else pick?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think so.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. All right. So from Murph, he asked us a couple of questions. He asked us who will be the quarterback for the Patriots. I think we've kind of already talked about that. Lisa, this one's for you. What do you think of a third OC in Miami in 3 years?
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. I really would like to see if, the false reports came out about Chan Gailey. I can't see Chan staying around. I'm not sure about that 100%, but I think, if they promote within, we're going to be all right, because that'll still be the nucleus of what
Continuity.
Chan. And, a lot of times we talked about it even at the Senior Bowl with some of the Dolphin people, was that to us was some of the things that was happening. They just brought Chan in to groom the next offensive coordinator for Tua. So if, and Flores will promote from within. So, he loves his coaching staff, he's very loyal to him. And I think if he thinks that, get the weapons around Tua and stuff like that will help, then I don't think we'll see a different offensive minded coach. I've heard the name Bill O'Brien being mentioned because, they got the New England connection there. He worked with Bill in New England. So I was just like, where did that come from? But apparently, when you get that Belichick coaching tree, they all connect. So.
Yeah, I get it. All right. Murph also asked us if it's time for Matt Stafford to be traded. Sonia, what do you think? Maybe.
It's hard to say. I think deep down inside.
Just say it, Sonia. It's okay.
Okay. It's time for him to be traded. I think it's time.
And he should take his wife out of Detroit with him.
Ooh.
Yeah, she don't like it anymore.
Pop shots.
I mean, that's another story too. But she tried though, bless her heart. I think it's time for him to be traded. You feel bad because you kind of wasted his career, and he wants so much to win for this team. And he'll go to the mat for us, but it's time to move on. He probably should have been traded a couple years ago. Maybe before they go to Dallas, before they drafted Dak, something like that. But it's time for him to get traded. Now, who takes him out? His cap space, his cap hit is a little bit nicer than Carson Wentz.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So you do have options. Would a place like Denver be good? Something like that. It could work for him in Denver too. He's a gamer. He could go out there and do his thing out there. So, and slinging around in that mountain high air. Yeah, it'd be good.
For sure. All right, then Murph's last question is for Kate. Kate, who invented liquid soap and why?
In 1865, a gentleman by the name of William Shepard actually patented liquid soap for use for domestic applications. It had been used up until that time in manufacturing, but he actually felt that there was a need for it in domestic applications for washing dishes and clothes. And the only reason that I wanted that question is because I think it's hilarious, is it's actually a famous quote, or famous from people like me who are movie geeks, from the movie The Sure Thing with John Cusack. So it's just a stupid, it's like in Airplane, I used to ask people what the world's fastest land mammal was, and I knew whether or not they had seen Airplane, because if they said the cheetah next, then I knew that they had seen Airplane. Because there were all those stupid questions at the information. So this is actually just a fun one from a John Cusack movie that I love.
Love it. I love that you know that. It makes me so happy. All right. So we did have one more serious question. Thank you, Murph, for all of your questions. This is from Alexander George. He asked us, should GM Gettleman be fired? So I decided to take that one because I had just been reading about this not too long ago. So for those of you who don't know, Dave Gettleman is the GM for the Giants. So the Giants are slowly creeping up, win by win, year by year. It's going so slow. So Gettleman has been around, I think, like 4 or 5 years now. We have to kind of remember that his last couple of years, he was under the Eli Manning umbrella for a minute and was kind of stuck there. So I do find it interesting that people are calling for him to be fired in Joe Judge's first year. So I look at it this way. I think you have to at minimum give him one more year of managing that. I don't think the NFC East, is it the East? No, what are they in the South? They're in the East?
Yeah, they're in the East.
Okay, thank you. All of a sudden I panicked thinking I had that wrong. Okay, NFC East. I'm smart. I promise. I don't think that division would have been near as close had Saquon Barkley not been hurt.
Exactly.
I think if Saquon Barkley had been hurt, the Giants would be your champion by probably 3 games, and there wouldn't have been any questions going into the season like they were this year. So I don't think you can really hold this year against them. And yet they still managed to get 2 more wins than they did last year. I think their quarterback, I think Jones is better than people are giving him credit for. I think that line is atrocious and they need to kind of fix that. But I do think that it is possible for this team to jump up to even an 8 to 10 win season next year, depending on if they can stay healthy. So my answer to you, sir, is no. I think he gets 1 more year to see how this roster building has gone. So that's my thought on it.
I agree. And that's
I agree.
Good. Yeah. I think that there's a couple of teams out there, and this leads into our next question. There's a couple of teams out there who maybe didn't perform well this year, or were on that cusp that we think will maybe not go worst to first, but go from middling to much better. So I have my thought on who I think that team is going to be. But Kate, I'm going to start with you. Which team do you see that's kind of middle of the road, played okay, wasn't really a threat, but you think that they might take the jump next year?
Better say it, Kate.
I'd like to pass to Sonia.
I don't know that that's an option, but okay, Sonia, go ahead.
I think Washington could actually take that next jump if they get their quarterback situation taken care of. They, like you said, they got Chase Young on defense. I think Dana knows defense wins championships. And if you got that good defense and if they get a quarterback and that quarterback situation gets settled, I think wash out. And if they draft a couple more, maybe a wide receiver and another running back or something like that, I think Washington could make a jump and get a little bit more secure.
I'm curious what their drafts or their cap situation is, because there's going to be some fire sales at some teams, and there are going to be some very talented players that are going to be up for trade or up to get rid of. And so if Washington picks a couple of them up, it could be really good. All right. So.
All right, I'm ready now.
Okay, Kate is ready now.
They've got some room. I just checked.
They do have room.
I had to go check because nothing was jumping into my mind of like a middle of the road team that I thought was close. And it's actually a team that's been near the top of their division before, and they've had a hard couple years. And for me, it's the Minnesota Vikings, because I think Kirk Cousins he's a really solid quarterback, and they've got, Adam Thielen and Kyle Rudolph and that Cook kid that can run a ball. And so I just think they have, maybe with a little more help on defense, that they could go from 7-9 to 10 wins next year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. I 100% agree, because honestly, I thought they were going to be 10 wins this year.
I thought so too.
So I could totally see that happening.
I think with the Vikings, what happened there is they thought that they could overcome the loss of Diggs. You don't overcome the loss of a player at that caliber.
Right.
You need someone.
And he's now going to the playoffs with Buffalo. So
right. And
and then the only other team
in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, the only other team that I think will be interesting to watch next year, because they'll either win 10 games or just 2, is the Raiders.
Okay.
They're a right middle 8-8, and they're either gonna really grow with what John Gruden's doing and go into next year and just take over that division, or they're just gonna sink down to 2 to 3, 4 wins and just have to go through rebuilding all over. I don't feel like they can be middle of the road again. It's gonna be one way or the other with them.
Right. I completely agree. And either Gruden will be heralded as the greatest coach of all, or he'll be fired. It's going to be one extreme or the other. Yeah, I agree. Lisa, what about you?
Well, besides the Dolphins,
they had a great season, Lisa.
We did. Yeah, but you still have to go up one.
Yeah. Lisa, we can barely hear you, sister.
Huh?
We can barely hear you.
Oh.
There's a secret setting on Zoom. When someone whines, it turns their volume down.
I'm super jealous.
Oh, funny. All right, we're gonna let Lisa figure out her audio stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and go. So my team is the Chargers. Now, as sad as I was that Anthony Lynn got fired today, because I don't think that he deserved to be fired, and that's a whole 20-minute show in and of itself. I do think that they have all the pieces. I think that Herbert is going to make a huge jump next year. He already looked really good this year. I think that they obviously have some very talented players on there, and I think that if they add the right pieces and give Herbert just a year of actual training camp as the starter with those reps, with all that time, I think that's going to make a huge difference. And all those true rookie mistakes, which you could just point them out. It's like, oh, kid, next year you'll know not to do that. You know what I mean? Those moments will go away next year. I think that the Chargers have a very good chance of making a decent jump, to a 10 or 11 win team. Just
Do
because
they
I
move
think
Jared Goff?
Oh no, honey, the Chargers, not the Rams.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong blue and yellow team.
The Rams, no, they're stuck with him. Yeah, wrong LA team. Same colors, same town.
Same colors, same
whatever.
city.
Yeah,
I was about
exactly.
to say too much playoff prosecco.
But
Yeah, okay.
no, the Rams are stuck with Goff for a little bit, I think. But so because of his contract. Quit giving these contracts to these quarterbacks, people. What are you doing? Oh my God. So anyway, I do think that the Chargers have a really good chance. So, all right, Lisa, you better?
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
I can hear you.
There we go. Okay, I would say that the team that I would look for to improve from this year would be the Houston Texans.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, I think with the right coach, couple more weapons, they're going to be there. And I think things just got out of hand with Bill O'Brien there. Player discord. I mean, that trade with Hopkins, I think, just set the tone. Mm-hmm. So fresh start. Never count Deshaun Watson out. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks. I think you just, if a smart guy comes in there and can, get the weapons for Deshaun, I think you're going to see a huge improvement in the Houston Texans next year.
Lisa, does J.J. Watt stay in Houston?
I think so.
Really?
I do. I think that he.
TJ Watt.
JJ.
Because I think it's going to, but I think it's going to depend on who they bring in too. So that's a big factor. I mean, I think, and it goes along with Sonia with Matthew Stafford. I still think it's going to be dependent on what structure they bring in. So
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
and who that coach is. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, if you're talking about where Detroit is with Matthew Stafford, do you just keep Matthew there as a veteran, bring in another young guy, or go for a draft, and then start building through there? So I mean, there's a lot. Everything rides on what I think we have 6 teams that are looking for head coaches.
6 now. Yeah.
6 teams that are looking that. The structures could totally be changed. I mean, if somebody comes in and JJ's not happy with that philosophy, just like with us with Coach Flo when he came in, Mika Fitzpatrick was like, I'm out of here. Right. I don't, so he could easily say that, or he could bring in somebody that he really wants to help and because I don't think the Houston Texans are far away.
Oh
no, they're not.
They just need weapons and a good coach. Mm-hmm. So
coaching is their problem.
Exactly.
Coaching is their problem without question.
So I think with JJ, it all depends on who they bring in, and if his philosophy fits with him, then he'll stay.
It'll stay.
Unless, like you said, unless he gets that guarantee from a winning team. So
like all the Steelers fans wanting all 3 Watt brothers. Just shut up, Steelers fans. Don't be greedy. Don't be greedy. It's not fair.
Tampa Bay could use him.
Yeah, they could.
True.
Oh, let's not give Brady a reason to win, shall we?
All right. The week after the Super Bowl, we'll play fantasy trading in real life.
Oh, fantasy trading is my favorite. Okay, yes. All right, you guys.
But hang on. I have a question. Yeah. You couldn't hear me earlier. What I want to know is I want to go back to GM Gettleman question for just a minute. I want to jump on the GM train for a minute. And I want to direct this question to you, Dana. There's been a lot of talk about John Snyder. Mm-hmm. I saw a conversation you got into on Twitter. You didn't seem too surprised if he would want to take on something different. I was very surprised at that.
I think that what Seahawks fans do not want to acknowledge is the fact that, yes, Pete Carroll signed an extension for 2 years. Pete Carroll's like 70,000 years old now, right? Like, he's getting to the end of his career, and John Snyder and Pete Carroll are a team. So if Pete has already said to John Snyder, you know, after this extension, I'm out, I promised my wife, whatever it may be, that he's going to finally retire, I wouldn't be surprised if John Snyder went ahead and picked up another challenge, because Seattle was a huge challenge when he came into that team. The interesting thing that was brought to my attention that I had forgotten was that John Snyder, in his contract extension, was told he could not leave Seattle for Green Bay. Green Bay is his dream job. He grew up a Packers fan. He loves the organization. He's worked for them before. And so they're like, you know, you can't go. It was either he couldn't go to Green Bay or he couldn't go anywhere, but it doesn't matter. John Snyder has already come out and said he loves Seattle. He's not going anywhere. His wife is very settled there. They're very happy. And he feels like he's still in the process of rebuilding this team from the Legion of Boom era. And so I think he still feels like he has a little challenge there. But I would not be surprised if some team came along, gave him all the power that he wanted, and they needed, because they were at the bottom of the league, that he wouldn't be excited by that challenge. I could see that. Yeah.
She's talking about Detroit.
It was Detroit that wanted him. It was Detroit that wanted him.
I would throw the kitchen sink at him, Sonia, just saying.
I mean, you know, if you're going to shoot your shot, shoot your shot. But I highly doubt it's going to happen. Right. But if you're going to shoot your shot, shoot your shot.
Right. Yeah, I think that
challenge. Detroit's a challenge. We're fixed.
Detroit's a challenge. Always has
Cleveland used to be a challenge. We're almost fixed. Detroit's the next one up on the block.
Detroit is definitely, yeah. Or Jacksonville, which was an interesting conversation I saw today, was that the Jacksonville job was going to be the dream job. They have $100 million in cap. They have no quarterback, so you get to pick and choose who you want. Like, it was going to be the coach and GM's dream job, until Shad Khan came out and said, oh, by the way, I have full control. I have roster control. My GM doesn't have roster control. My coach doesn't have roster control. Then I'd be like, why would anyone want to work there? First of all, you're going to have 2 or 3 home games in London every year, because they had already agreed to that. And now you don't even get, what are you going to do? Write contracts all day? Like, you can't even do your job. It doesn't work for Jerry Jones very well, obviously. No other owner should try and do it. So I think that was interesting. I think that brought Jacksonville's job, you know, people thinking that was a great job to get. I think that brought it down quite a bit today. So, which is too bad, because they need some help, y'all. As bad as the Jets, for sure. So,
and Trevor Lawrence isn't going to help him that first year, so I hate to say
no, he's not. I got tired of that, too. I got into it with someone. It's like, Trevor Lawrence can't fix his team. He can help, but he can't fix the team. There's too many.
No.
Yeah,
but I'm taking Justin Fields over Lawrence, just an FYI.
Oh, we're going to talk about that closer to the draft, Lisa. Yeah.
I am.
Let me tell you, Lisa nailed it on the head last year, and so people should listen to her when it comes to quarterbacks. So,
She and I both liked Justin Herbert last year.
You both did. You absolutely both did. You guys both were talking about him, and I was like, okay, I
like him.
You know how I feel about college ball.
So
I was
okay with either one. So
yeah. All right, everybody. So we are not going to give you our Super Bowl predictions. We are not going to give you our game predictions, because it's the playoffs and nobody knows what's going to happen. And we don't know who's going to get COVID by next week and be able to play. So it is too hard to even kind of predict in the least little bit how this is all going to play out. So we are going to come back next week and tell you how we all knew we were right from the beginning. And we had
that
already.
game. We said that
knew
game.
That. We talked about it. We promised.
Oh, yeah, we knew.
But we promise that we will give you our Super Bowl picks before the AFC and NFC championship games, for sure.
We should each tweet our playoff game projections, like who we think is going to win each matchup, and then we can talk about our tweets on the next podcast.
Okay.
All right.
But I'm going to wait
credit for the winner.
Friday night to make sure everybody's COVID clear.
I'll do mine Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday morning or Saturday morning.
I'll do mine.
Sunday night around
Saturday, like 11 o'clock. Sunday, 11 o'clock.
I can't wait till the games are over to predict.
No, probably
right.
not. That's not really fair.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's a wacky year, you guys. It's too hard for that.
That's
stuff.
why I said I'm doing Friday.
That's right. All right, everyone. We will be back next week. Thanks for joining us, and we hope that you have a great week of football. Good night, everybody.
Bye.